Sometimes you might find yourself wondering if that profession is right for you. From the office space to the playing field, we found a number of people who definitely picked the wrong career. Maybe they were terrible, or perhaps they were simply wasting their talents. Whatever the reason, they chose the wrong profession to work in. Be sure to subscribe and join our notification squad. It's a career move that works every time. Magical. Years ago, Joanne Rowling was working a job as a secretary for Amnesty International. By all accounts, she wasn't a very good secretary because she couldn't stay focused on the job at hand. Every day, Rowling daydreamed about a fantasy world and a certain fictional character named Harry. Eventually, her coworkers got sick of her lack of work and Rowling was fired. It turned out to be a huge blessing as the fired secretary could now focus solely on writing about her world of wizards and Harry under the pen name J.K. Rowling. What a bluff! In 1996, the manager of English soccer team Southampton received an inside tip about an up-and-coming star named Ali Dia. The young Senegalese footballer was supposed to be the next big thing, so he was signed sight unseen. The much-hyped Dia made his start for Southampton against Leeds that same year. It did not go well. For a little over 50 minutes, Dia shocked fans with a performance some said resembled Bambi learning to walk. It was brutal. Realizing soccer was not for him, Dia is now a businessman in London. I'd like to buy a vowel. If you like watching a little TV after dinner, then odds are you've seen the game show Wheel of Fortune. Since the early 1980s, this popular game show has been hosted by Pat Sajak, and it's hard to think of anyone else ever taking that job. Nonetheless, riding a wave of popularity in 1989, Sajak was given his own nighttime talk show. We don't know whether it was because Vanna White wasn't there or Sajak just wasn't hitting the right chords, but things didn't work out. A little over a year after it debuted, Sajak's show was canceled, and he found himself back full-time at the wheel. A model teacher. Did you ever have a teacher that you had a crush on? Maybe there was a teacher who was just so good-looking it was hard to stay focused on the lesson. We think that's the case with New Jersey high school teacher Nicholas Ferroni. Yup, this is one good-looking teacher. Voted America's sexiest teacher, it's hard to argue that Ferroni chose the wrong profession since he's popular with his students. However, we just feel that when you look this good, the modeling and acting world are really missing out on a potential gem. A successful move. Drafted out of the University of Florida in 2010, at the time you'd sound crazy to think that Tim Tebow was making a bad career move by joining the Denver Broncos. After all, he won a bunch of awards in college, including the prestigious Heisman Trophy. Then we saw him play in the NFL. It wasn't that Tebow was terrible, he just wasn't consistent or good enough overall to be a starter. Fortunately, he recognized this after a few years and moved on to professional baseball. The Colonel. Unless you're a vegetarian, odds are you've tried some of that delicious and crunchy chicken from the world-famous Kentucky Fried Chicken. Part of KFC's image is definitely its founder, the highly recognizable Colonel Sanders. Yet before the Colonel was making his fortune by clogging everyone's arteries, he had a string of failed career moves. Sanders was a farmer, streetcar conductor, fireman, and insurance salesman. It wasn't until he was 40 years old that he decided to open up a fried chicken shop, and the rest of his wrong professions became history. Like Mike. You can't have any discussion of NBA greatness without mentioning the contribution of Chicago Bulls legend Michael Jordan. Jordan was the face of the NBA in the 90s, winning several championships and striking massive sponsorship deals with nearly everyone. But in the middle of all this success, he decided to retire from basketball and try his hand at baseball. Now, we're not going to say he was terrible because he wasn't. However, when he decided to come back to the NBA and win a few more titles, we think it was clear which career choice was the best. By accident. You'd think being a university professor is a decent career choice. In Lynn Slater's case, there was apparently a better profession waiting to be discovered by accident. While waiting to have lunch with a friend in New York, Slater was suddenly surrounded by photographers who thought she was some sort of fashion guru. You see, it was Fashion Week in the city, and we guessed Slater had the right look. Well, that little episode led the 60-something professor to start a fashion career in blogging and modeling, and things are really working out. Good timing. Back in the 1970s, an unknown actor named Harrison Ford had decided that acting wasn't paying the bills and might not be for him. Despite appearing in the film American Graffiti, Ford decided that becoming a carpenter was a better career choice. It turned out to be both the right and wrong choice. After all, Ford's future was not in carpentry. However, without it, he would have never been on location when George Lucas was looking for someone to read lines for an upcoming sci-fi film called Star Wars. My, how differently things could have turned out. The Eagle. Yikes! Like this poor wrestler proves, some careers should just be avoided. This is a story of a definite wrong career choice, but it has a silver lining. Michael Edwards was a plasterer by trade, but also a ski jumper. Eventually known as Eddie the Eagle, Edwards captured the hearts of fans who watched him perform at the 1988 Olympics. But boy, was he terrible at it. Finishing last in his events, Eddie would never cut it as a ski jumper, but his story provided inspiration for future aspiring athletes and material for a recent biopic titled Eddie the Eagle. Well, if anything, some of these stories prove there is hope for all of us if we ever find ourselves in the wrong line of work. Now, before you hit those classified postings, be sure to check out a few more of the videos on offer here at The Ridges. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.